Hi, this is Janey Imaani and welcome to Emotional Awareness. So many of our videos are about how to build relationship and how to resolve conflict and how to have compassion and etc. But on today's video, what we're going to do is talk about the other side, which is that some people are not ready or worthy of building a relationship with. And so no amount of emotional awareness work or these videos are going to help you help them. So one of the main questions that come up is, how do I know if somebody is worthy of being helped? And so Carl Rogers, who is the founding father of psychotherapy, says that there are necessary preconditions to helping somebody. And one of them is that they must want to be helped. Like, you can take a horse to the water, but you can't force him to drink. And so the first question is, does this person actually want to grow? So sometimes some people are stuck in these places where they're not invested in growth. They're invested in their victim story. And it's definitely a little bit tricky to tell whether they're invested in growth or they're invested in being a victim. But here are some clues that might help you out. So one of them is that you don't see any change in them. Years and years go by and they're exactly the same person. And sometimes they're even worse. Another one would be that they complain all the time, and they complain about the same things, and it's often about other people. And when they're speaking, you don't hear any accountability. So if somebody wants to change, they are more likely to talk about what they did wrong and how they can improve and about themselves than other people. And so remember, this is definitely difficult to tell, but what you're looking for is consistent patterns over a very long period of time, because we all complain, now and again, but this is their default and this is what they do all the time. Okay, so the next question that comes up is, how do I protect myself from trying to help the wrong people? And that's by having boundaries. So, boundaries is at the core of self-protection. So what is a boundary? A boundary is knowing when something doesn't feel right for you and then you saying no. So even a lifeguard knows that when somebody is drowning, they come out to help you with their feet out first, because they know that a drowning person is going to try to drown you too. And if it's a case between, both of us drown or you drown, then it's going to be you drown. And that sounds cool, but it's not, because it's really the better option out of the two. And so if you don't have healthy boundaries, the drowning person is going to take you down with them and you won't even know. There's also a side effect to not knowing how to protect yourself or overextending yourself. So say if you're an empathic person, right? So what is empathy minus boundaries? It can turn into resentment or anger or passive aggressiveness or secretly being annoyed or something like that. Or you can even take generosity. What is generosity minus boundaries? You say you're somebody who says yes to everything, that can turn into you overexhausting yourself, or you being tired all the time to the point where you can't take care of your own needs. And so any good virtue minus boundaries becomes hazardous. Okay, so what stops us from having good boundaries? Oftentimes because, it feels bad, right? It feels bad to say no. You kind of don't want to be a bad person. And, we care more about how we are being perceived than standing up for ourselves or being authentic. Another one would be because we generally don't know about boundaries, right? Nobody told us, nobody modeled for us, and nobody gave us the permission to really have healthy boundaries. And on top of that, it's not like once you do set a boundary, everybody's really happy for you and they respect it. Oftentimes there's a pushback to setting a healthy boundary. So an example of that would be, say, if you decided not to go out with your friends every Friday night. Your friends are most likely to turn around and be like, oh, why don't you just come out with us? It's not a big deal. Or it's just one night. Or maybe they will even get upset and think that you don't like them anymore. And so generally, you have to have some sort of muscle to be able to hold up to your boundaries. And most of us don't have that. And so I can definitely understand why boundaries is something that we learn later on in life than at the beginning of our lives. So according to the Daring Way research, we know that one of the shocking findings was that the most compassionate people were the ones who had boundaries. They're the ones who said no when they needed to. They're the ones who stood up for themselves. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because boundaries is the only way to sustain your generosity or your kindness without it wearing you out to the point where you're resentful and discontented or, angry or passive aggressive or something like that. And so boundaries very much help with sustainability. So if you are an empath or a very helpful or hopeful person, then the likelihood of you being taken advantage of is much higher. And so it's really important for empaths and kind people to understand boundaries, because that's the only way you can sustain your generosity without it wearing you out in the long run. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!